3 a.m. on her birthday, the dark stranger who ruined her dinner left her haunted forever. The clock struck 3. The wind howled outside, as if echoing the turmoil within the small, dimly lit dining room. Jenna cut her birthday cake, but the celebration danced on the edge of disaster. She could feel the air crackle with something unworldly, something wrong. As she looked around at her friends, she felt the unease bubbling in her chest. Laughter seemed ironic, almost cruel, against the looming shadows closing in. Whispers swirled, voices raised in caution, glances thrown towards the window where darkness loomed like an unwelcome guest at it all began minutes before. Just as the candles flickered to life, she felt a cold chill wash over her. As if winter had barged through the door. But there was no winter storm tonight. Friends shrugged it off, thinking it was a draft. But not Jenna. Oh no, she felt it in her bones, the strange static that made her heart race and her skin prickle. Then, the moment stretched into a painful silence. Suddenly, there was a knock. That deep, hollow sound resonated like a funeral bell. The door rattled as the house seemed to still. Her friends exchanged glances, laughter dying on their lips. "It's probably just the wind," one joked weakly, but Jenna's instinct screamed otherwise. The air thickened with tension. A low murmur passed through the group, half terrified, half intrigued at what lurked beyond the threshold. Curiosity mingled with fear. Jenna glanced toward the door, heart thumping in her ears. What kind of stranger would show up at this hour? Another knock, more insistent. The noise echoed, a heavy drumbeat sounding off every racing heartbeat in the room. No one made a move. Nobody wanted to break that stillness, a tense pact of staying put. "Go see who it is, Jen," someone finally urged, breaking through the paralysis. "Me?" Jenna's voice trembled. A cold sweat broke across her brow. But then, against all sense, she stood up. Her legs felt like lead, dragging her towards that dreadful door. Each step sent a shiver through her. Something was waiting for her. Something dark and twisted. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jenna reached for the doorknob, fingers trembling as she turned it. The door creaked open, letting in a gust that snuffed out the candles and plunged them into darkness. Heart racing, she squinted into the void. And there he stood, a figure draped in shadows, face obscured. An electric pulse of shock swept through the room. Her friends gasped, eyes wide, fixed on the stranger. Was it fear or excitement? The tension twisted like a knife. "What do you want?" she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. The stranger didn't move, didn't speak. Just watched, as if sizing her up. Jenna felt the weight of every heartbeat in the silence, 1,000 questions swirling the stranger's intentions. What darkness came with him? All she could do was stand there, frozen in the doorway, as the weight of 1,000 unknowns clawed at her. Who was he? Why tonight? Her heart began to race faster, fear pouring through her veins. Did this ruin her birthday? Or was it just the beginning of something far more sinister? What could it mean, this dark stranger standing in her doorway? And what horror was about to unfold? Jenna stood paralyzed, staring into the shadows where the stranger loomed. Goosebumps crawled up her arms, every instinct screaming for her to slam the door shut. Yet, there was a strange allure to him. She couldn't look away. Her friends shifted behind her, whispering half-formed words of dread and confusion. Tension crackled in the air. "Who are you?" she managed to choke out, her voice trembling as it cut through the eerie silence. He stepped closer, but the darkness seemed to cling to him like a second skin. His eyes glinted for a moment, cold and penetrating. A whisper of a smile curved his lips, yet it felt devoid of warmth, like the frost that settles on a windowpane in winter. One of her friends, Alex, dared to take a step forward. "Look, it's late. You shouldn't be here," he called out, a brave facade wavering under the stranger's gaze. But the eyes of the shadowed figure only sharpened, glancing between Jenna and her friend with an intensity that made the entire room feel smaller. "Tell her, she must listen," he finally spoke, his voice smooth, slipping through the air like silk but chilling to the bone. Each word ignited a wave of anticipation laced with fear. Jenna felt the tension building in the room, as if they were all holding their breath, waiting for a revelation that felt dangerously close. "Listen to what?" Jenna dared to ask, her voice growing steadier, though her heart thundered like a war drum in her chest. What could this man possibly want? "It's not about what I want," he replied with a cryptic smile. "It's about what you need to know." "What are you talking about?" she demanded, turning her head slightly to glance back at her friends, their terrified expressions reflecting back at her, people adrift in darkness. She needed to regain control, to push this creeping dread back to where it belonged. The stranger stepped into the dim light, revealing a face that was both familiar and alien. Jenna's breath caught. It was as though she were looking into a distorted mirror, a twisted reflection of herself. The realization gripped her: this was no mere stranger. He was an echo of her own fears, her own buried secrets. "You've always known, haven't you?" he said softly, eyes narrowed as if penetrating her very soul. "Deep down, you've always felt it. Tonight, the truth demands to be set free." Her friends murmured behind her, confusion morphing into panic. A sudden chill swept through the room as the door creaked open wider, revealing the storm outside, a swirling tempest that mirrored the chaos brewing within. "Jenna, what is he saying?" someone whispered. Fear coursed through them all, palpable and raw. "You don't understand," she whispered back. But the stranger kept his gaze, unwavering, and she felt her resolve crumbling. In that quiet moment, guilt mingled with intrigue. The path forward was dark and deceiving, with just a glimmer of desperation threatening to pull her under. "What truth?" Jenna asked, the words escaping her lips before she could think better of it. The tension wrapped around her throat, binding her even further. With that, the stranger took a step closer, tilting his head as if she were a delicate flower to be carefully examined. "The truth about that night. The night you've forgotten, or perhaps chosen to forget." "What night?" Jenna's heart raced, dread clawing at her like nails on glass. Shadows danced in her mind, swirling like the winds outside. What had happened? And then, just like that, the candles flickered back to life, illuminating the room and her friends' terrified faces once more. But the stranger was gone, vanished into thin air. Only his words lingered, echoing in the silence. "You cannot hide forever." Jenna slammed the door shut and leaned against it, gasping for breath. What night? What truth? A suffocating weight enveloped her as she turned to her friends, knowing with utter certainty that tonight was only the beginning, and the real horror was yet to come. Suddenly, a crashing sound from the other side of the room made her jump. What had she really let in? The crash echoed like thunder in the stillness, shattering the fragile calm that had momentarily settled in the room. Jenna's heart leaped into her throat, every instinct screaming at her to flee. She turned, but her friends were already bolting towards the source of the noise, drawn by the allure of curiosity or perhaps an even stronger urge to escape the oppressive dread. "Wait!" Jenna yelled, her voice shaking. But Alex had already thrown open the door to the adjacent room. The thick shadows swirled around him like smoke. "Is anyone in here?" he called, but there was only silence in response. The uncertainty lingered, festering like an unhealed wound. Jenna followed slowly, her feet feeling as heavy as lead. The dim light from their flickering candles barely pushed back the dark corners of the house. As she stepped over the threshold, the air felt thick, almost electric, as if charged with an unseen presence, waiting just out of sight. Her gaze swept across the room until it settled on the shattered glass that lay across the floor, a result of a fallen vase, the silky petals of wilting roses strewn about like memories fading into obscurity. Tension coiled in her stomach as she scanned the room, half expecting to see the stranger materialize out of the shadows. "Nothing here," Alex declared, his voice laced with a mix of relief and lingering apprehension. But Jenna's gut twisted with unease. "Something isn't right," she murmured, feeling an unseen weight pressing against her chest. The stranger's warning echoed in her mind, mixing with memories that wouldn't reveal themselves. What did she need to know? "Come on, Jenna," another friend urged, pulling her from her thoughts. "We should get out of here. This is insane." But Jenna shook her head. A deep, instinctual pull urged her to stay. She needed answers, a thread to unravel this tangled mess of fear and shadows. A sudden flicker of movement caught her eye, and there was a distorted shape darting across the room. Heart pounding, she squinted into the darkness. "Did you see that?" she whispered, panic creeping into her voice. "See what?" Alex replied, brow furrowing. Jenna paused, thumbing the edges of her mind for clarity, but before she could finish, the electric silence pulsed again. Then, without warning, the doors slammed shut across the house, rattling like thunder, trapping them within this suffocating prison of uncertainty. Jenna's breath quickened, her friends now mere shadows against the ferocious onslaught of the storm outside. "We need to," Alex began, fear creeping into his voice. But he hadn't finished before the lights blinked out, plunging them into darkness. The candles flickered, their flames dancing wildly as if in desperate protest to the growing void. "Stick together," Jenna shouted, but the doubt clawing at her heart screamed of betrayal. How could they stick together when fear threatened to rip them apart? Suddenly, the darkness whispered back, a memory emerging like a ghost from the shadows. She recalled fragments, laughter, an argument, and the unmistakable sound of a distant cry. "Not again," she whispered, her voice barely above the roar of the storm. From the depths of that consuming silence, a voice emerged, the stranger's haunting tones wrapping around her like a shroud. "Face what you've avoided. The night belongs to you." "Who are you?" Jenna shouted into the void, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Not who, but what," came the chilling reply, making the air thicken like fog. With every breath, Jenna felt his presence, an unseen force that knew her very soul, twisting her fears into a knife. Just then, something cold brushed against her arm. She screamed, a raw burst of terror. But when she turned, the room was empty again, save for the racing heartbeat of her friends echoing in the panic-filled air. A sudden realization surged through her: the truth would find her, and when it did, she wouldn't be able to hide. Amidst the chaos, the front door burst open, slamming back against the wall with a clang. Through it, the storm howled like a banshee, but out there, glimmering in the darkness, two glowing eyes watched, waiting for her next move. "What's out there?" she breathed, as dread wrapped tighter around her throat, and then a voice cut sharply through the storm, sending shivers down her spine. "You cannot escape what lies within." Jenna's heart raced as she stood at the threshold, fear morphing into an insatiable curiosity. Those glowing eyes remained fixed on her, glimmering with a malevolence that made her want to take a step back. "What lies within?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Alex stumbled forward, squinting into the darkness outside. "Jenna, we shouldn't be here. We need to leave now." His eyes darted between the door and her, panic evident on his face. "Wait," she urged, gripping his arm, feeling the heat of his skin beneath her fingers. "I have to find out what it wants." The truth lingered just beyond her grasp, like a distant shadow beckoning her closer. Suddenly, the chill in the air deepened, wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket. An uneasy silence swallowed their words, broken only by the low rumble of thunder as it echoed ominously through the night. The candles flickered once more, and for a moment, the dim light revealed the outlines of their fraying nerves. "Face what you've avoided," the voice whispered again, entwined with the gusts of wind that rushed in through the open door, swirling around them. Before she could make sense of the echoing words, a thunderous crash erupted from within the house. The friends jumped back, instinctively recoiling as if the noise had struck them physically. The sound was followed by a series of quick, sharp footsteps, coming from somewhere deep in the hall. "What the hell was that?" Margot gasped, clutching Jenna's arm tightly, her eyes wide with terror. "Maybe someone else is here," Alex whispered, but a small ounce of hope fell flat amid their growing dread. An unwelcome thought pierced through Jenna's mind. What if they weren't alone anymore? Guys, we can't panic, Jenna urged, trying to hold herself steady. She took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. We need to go check. Why? Margot protested, her voice shaky, but there was an urgency in Jenna's gaze, one she couldn't ignore. The voice, it knew something, Jenna insisted. I have to find out what it means. As she edged toward the source of the sound, her friends slowly followed, fear pooling in the pit of their stomachs. Each step felt like walking through a dream gone wrong, the shadows stretching and swirling in ways that evoked memories she couldn't quite place. The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly, the flickering candles casting ghostly shapes that danced against the walls. Jenna felt as if the house itself were alive, breathing, watching, waiting for her next move. The whispering wind seemed to mock her resolve as they approached the door that loomed at the end of the hall. Another crash sounded, sharp and jarring. This time it felt personal, like a message crafted just for Jenna. Okay, we can do this, she murmured, trying to convince herself as much as her friends. She reached for the doorknob, and a chill ran down her spine, connecting her to the unseen presence. As she paused, with a deep breath, she turned the knob. The door swung open, revealing darkness swirling like ink. Hello? She called out, her voice a mere whisper against the storm outside. But fear gripped her heart as an answer emerged, tinged with malice. Are you ready to face the past, Jenna? It asked, a distorted version of her own voice. And just like that, the distance between her and the answer she sought evaporated, leaving only a suffocating void. A flood of images crashed into her mind, faces blurred, voices overlapping, and in the center of it all, a shimmering form twisting through the chaos. No! Jenna screamed as the realization hit with an intensity that nearly brought her to her knees. But in that moment of despair, she felt something surge within her, an unyielding determination. She wouldn't be controlled by these shadows, she wouldn't let them dictate her fate. Whatever you are, you can't have me. She shouted defiantly, but the wind howled back, spiraling with an unnatural force, and then the eyes outside flickered, and the door violently slammed shut behind her, trapping them in a cacophony of fear just as her phone buzzed to life in her pocket, blaring a ringtone in the dark. What's happening? Alex yelled, panic rising in his voice. Jenna's heart raced as she looked at the screen. One simple message: help me before it's too late. What had she awakened? What haunting past was waiting to collapse upon her? The shrill ringtone shattered the silence like glass, leaving Jenna momentarily paralyzed. The glowing screen felt like a beacon in the oppressive darkness, but the message sent a jolt of dread coursing through her veins. Help me before it's too late. Who sent that? Margot gasped, peering over Jenna's shoulder, her voice trembling. I don't know. I'm not even sure what's happening here. Jenna babbled, glancing nervously at the closed door, expecting something or someone to burst through any second. Alex stood beside her, his eyes wide, scanning the hallway for any signs of movement. This isn't good, Jenna. We need to get out of here. Now. But Jenna's eyes were glued to the phone. What coincidence was this? The voice, the memory, it was all becoming a tangled web, pulling her in deeper. Wait. Just a second. She tapped the screen, her fingers trembling slightly, the darkness pressing in around them like a relentless fog. What if it's someone I know? Or someone who wants to hurt you? Alex's words were a sharp reminder of their precarious situation. Maybe I can find out. With a resolution that surprised even her, Jenna swiped through her messages, desperately searching for context. But nothing made sense. The texts were all mundane, ordinary conversations from friends. No sign of anything out of the ordinary. Suddenly, the fleeting sound of footsteps echoed from behind the door they had just opened. It was quick, almost frenzied, a prelude to something sinister. The icy grip of fear wrapped tighter around Jenna's heart. Jenna! Margot hissed, clutching her arm with an iron grip. What if that help me message is a trap? Or a warning, Alex added, his voice barely above a whisper. Whatever it is, Jenna glanced back at the door, trying to figure out what to do next. I have to know. Before they could stop her, she took a step forward and raised her voice. Is anyone there? Silence. Then, that same distorted voice floated through the air like smoke. You really don't want to know who are you? Jenna demanded, her voice rising with defiance, masking the chaos of her thoughts. She needed control, a foothold in this whirlwind of confusion and terror. I am what you fear the most, the voice taunted, and Jenna's breath hitched in her throat. Her past, the things she thought she had buried, began to rise around her like tendrils of smoke, twisting and wrapping themselves around her. Stop it! Margot shouted, eyes wild. We need to leave. No. I can't leave yet. Jenna cried, an urgency consuming her. I need to understand. What do you mean by that? The laughter that followed was chilling, echoing within the walls. Let us begin. The atmosphere shifted, and Jenna felt an indescribable weight settle heavily upon her chest. A door slammed shut somewhere far off, the sound vibrating through the walls like an alarm bell. Without warning, Jenna's phone buzzed again, but this time it felt different, more urgent, almost desperate. She glanced down and felt her heart stop. The message had changed. It's coming for you now. No. We have to get out. Alex urged, stepping back, but Jenna was rooted to the spot, her mind racing with realization. What if this is more than just a whisper? What if it's a warning? A sharp breath hitched in her throat, and as her eyes darted towards the darkness, the palpable sense of dread mixed with raw determination rippled through her. Whatever happens next, I have to see it through. And as shadows began to dance ominously at the edges of their vision, Jenna couldn't shake the feeling that the house had turned into a ticking time bomb. It was only a matter of time before the truth would unfold, if only she could survive long enough to find it. What did we step into? Margot whispered, backing away slowly. Jenna tightened her grip on her phone, preparing for whatever was about to come. Rain pounded against the roof, and thunder echoed nearby. This was just the calm before the storm. As the shadows stretched closer, Jenna felt a spark ignite inside her. Whatever this is, I want to let it take me. But then the door behind them creaked open once more, revealing a dark figure. Jenna, it's time to come home. What awaited her in the shadows? Would she find the truth or succumb to the darkness? Jenna's heart raced as the figure stepped further into the light. The dim glow reflected off familiar features that twisted into a sinister grin. It was her brother, Evan, a ghost that bore no resemblance to the boy she once knew. Evan? Her voice wavered, disbelieving. The memories came rushing back, memories of laughter and warmth, now tainted by the darkness that had swallowed him years ago. How could he be here? Didn't you miss me? He said, his voice mocking. You left me behind, Jenna. You can't escape the past. Margot's grip on Jenna's arm tightened painfully, her body trembling. This can't be real. She stammered. He died. Alex took a cautious step forward, his brow furrowed with confusion. What are you doing here, Evan? The figure chuckled, a low, menacing sound that sent a chill through the room. That's what I'm here to show you. You think you've forgotten, but it's time to remember. With that, he raised a hand, and the room around them began to shift. Walls morphed, collapsing into an abyss of swirling shadows, pulling them into a memory that felt both achingly familiar and utterly terrifying. Suddenly, the air crackled with the smell of smoke. The scene transformed into their childhood home, engulfed in flames. Jenna gasped as she felt the heat licking at her skin. Her screams echoed in her ears, drowning out all logic. No. Stop. She yelled, but her voice was lost in the chaos. Desperation clawed at her throat as she searched for a way out. Evan's face twisted with a tormenting grin. You did this, didn't you? You think you can run from your guilt? A surge of rage coursed through her veins. I didn't mean to. I was just a kid. Yes, a kid who ran away while I burned. He shouted, the accusation ringing like a death knell. Tears streamed down Jenna's face as fragments of that fateful night flooded back. She remembered the argument, the anger bubbling over, the fear of being punished. In her need to escape, she had turned her back on the one person she should have saved. "Get out of my head!" she screamed, the memories serrated and raw. Suddenly, the flames flickered and vanished, plunging them back into the darkness of the ominous house. The air was heavier now, loaded with remorse. Jenna could see the pain etched into Margot and Alex's faces as they absorbed the horror of the truth. "No matter how hard you try," Evan's voice echoed around them, "the past will always come for you. Just like I will." Jenna's pulse raced as she felt the weight of his words. The shadows in the room thickened, feeding on her fear, rising higher. She had to act. There was no way Evan's twisted reality could define her any longer. "I want to let you control me," Jenna shouted, summoning every ounce of strength. "You may be a part of my past, but you don't own me." With unexpected ferocity, she thrust her phone in Evan's direction, illuminating the space with a brilliant flash that momentarily pushed back the darkness. For a heartbeat, she was free, suspended in the light. But as quickly as it appeared, the light fizzled out. The shadows receded, revealing a new corner of the twisted house, a door she had never seen before. "What is that?" Margot asked, her wide eyes flickering with fear and tentative hope. Alex stepped toward Jenna, his gaze fixed on her. "Should we go in? Is it safe?" Jenna could feel a pulse of destiny within her. But just as she took a step forward, a chilling laugh erupted, reverberating through the air. "Don't you dare open it, you'll regret it." The shadows stirred, ready to retaliate. With her heart pounding, Jenna glanced back, torn between escaping the darkness and confronting the truth that awaited behind the door. The moment hung in the balance: make a choice, or be consumed. "Are you ready to face whatever's in there?" Alex asked, his voice steady despite the chaos. Jenna's breath hitched. "I have to be," and as her fingers curled around the doorknob, the ground beneath them trembled, hinting at secrets yet to be unleashed. What lay on the other side? Would it reveal the answers she sought, or unleash even darker horrors? The moment her hand touched the doorknob, a jolt ran through Jenna, a visceral warning that turned her flesh cold. A bead of sweat trickled down her temple as she glanced back at Evan. His grin twisted wider, mocking her bravery. "Go on, Jenna. Open it," he taunted. "You've always wanted to know the truth. But be careful what you wish for." Margot squeezed Jenna's arm harder, her eyes wide with fear. "Please, don't do it. We can find another way." Alex stepped closer, his face a mask of determination. "We can't let him win. If we're going to get out of here, we have to confront whatever is waiting." With a deep breath, Jenna made her choice. The doorknob felt icy to her touch, slick with the weight of her dread. She turned it slowly, expecting the wood to creak and groan like the rest of the house, but there was silence. A sudden rush of wind burst from the opening door, sending both Jenna and Margot stumbling back. The darkness beyond the threshold was thick and swirling, a living entity promising unknown terrors. "Step inside, sister." Evan's voice purred, echoing with chaotic delight. "Shut up." Jenna snapped back, her pulse hammering loudly in her ears. She had to keep her mind clear. The door stood before her, an invitation and a curse all at once. She took a tentative step forward, Margot and Alex flanking her, their presence a lifeline in the strangling dark. As they crossed the threshold into the room, shadows flickered like distant flames, revealing glimpses of twisted memories, fragments of laughter, bright days marred by veils of agony, a collage of their family life before it shattered. "Why are you showing us this?" Margot cried out, looking around wide-eyed. "This isn't how it happened." "No." The shadows morphed, surrounding them with sights Jenna thought she had buried. "You turned your back when I needed you most, Jenna. The past has forged these projections, your regrets made real." As Jenna's breath quickened, the air thickened with despair. Images morphed into new horrors, children with bruised faces, a mother weeping in her room, the smoke curling into memories she'd long suffocated. Her heart pitched in panic, guilt gnawing at her. The ghost of her brother was relentless in his retribution. "Enough!" Jenna shouted, standing firm. You don't get to rewrite my life. The room trembled, shadows writhing around her like angry serpents. Evan's figure seemed to blur, filled with fury. You cannot run from me. With wild courage, Jenna reached out in the dark, searching for something, anything to push back the tide of shadows. Her fingers brushed a flicker of warmth, a photograph pinned against the wall. The edges were singed, but the image was clear, her brother's smile, devoid of malice, filled with joy. What are you waiting for? A voice breathed in her ear, a stranger's whisper that felt familiar yet unrecognizable. It's time to take back your story. Summoning her will, Jenna grasped the photograph tightly, the image igniting a fire in her chest. The power surged within her, dissolving the darkness, as she shouted, "You don't control my memories." "I do." The shadows recoiled, the whispers of her past screeching in protest. Light erupted, spilling forth in brilliant waves, clashing against Evan's ghastly figure. But then the floor rattled violently, a crack splitting wide open, an abyss yawning beneath her feet. Jenna felt herself slipping, the darkness beckoning her with icy fingers. Your past can't be erased. Evan screamed, trying to claw back at her as Jenna teetered on the brink. With a final surge of defiance, she clutched the photograph tighter, feeling its warmth grow as she began to rise, pulling back from the edge. And then she shouted with all her might, "I choose to remember. You cannot have me anymore." The light swallowed her whole, the world shifting once more. But as she opened her eyes, she found herself surrounded by a new landscape, one pulsing with both terror and promise. What awaited in this new realm? Would it free her or ensnare her with even darker truths? Jenna blinked against the blazing light. It felt alive, closing in on her like a warm embrace. But in an instant, shadows clawed at the edges, whispering secrets she wasn't ready to hear. The light faded, revealing a vast, eerie hall lined with mirrors. "Welcome back. Did you miss me?" Evan's voice slithered through the air, taunting and real, echoing off the reflective surfaces. Her heart thudded. Each mirror was a potential portal to horrors she couldn't face. Jenna's throat tightened as she took a step forward, her instinct screaming to flee. "Don't look in the mirrors," Alex shouted, grabbing her arm just in time. "Right," Margot added, her face pale. "Let us find a way out." But Jenna felt something pulling her. "Wait," she said, wrestling free. "What if I can confront him here?" "No more running." "Jenna, please," Margot pleaded, eyes wide with fear. "What if this isn't real?" Alex's voice was firm, but Jenna sensed his own doubts. Jenna took another cautious step. "Something is here, it might lead me to the truth. Or trap you forever." Evan's laughter rang out, and the mirrors seemed to ripple with malevolence. Jenna's hands trembled as she reached for the closest mirror, the surface rippling disturbingly, a dark mist swirling within like ink dispersing in water. She peered inside, gasping at the sight. The reflection mirrored her own face but distorted her emotions into grotesque caricatures, fear and sorrow exaggerated, twisting into a visage she didn't recognize. "You like what you see?" Evan hissed, his figure materializing behind her in the glass. "Every regret, every tear, their weight is what drives you, Jenna. Embrace it." "No," she shouted, stepping back. Memories crashed over her like waves, the day she avoided her little brother's call, the argument with her mother, the glances she had stolen at her brother's empty chair. Before she could spiral deeper into those memories, Jenna's determination shot through her. No more. She tapped the glass, solid and unyielding. "I choose hope," she declared, the words spilling from her like molten light, dispelling the shadows swirling around her. The mirrors began to vibrate, and Evan's smile faltered. "What? No. You can't." But Jenna pressed on, the warmth of memory flooding back. The photo of her brother burned in her mind, a moment brimming with life. She envisioned it, holding on to his laughter, anchoring herself against the oncoming tide. Then, without warning, a series of cracks echoed through the hall. The mirrors splintered one by one, each shattering, reflecting an echoing scream. They imploded, leaving only darkness and silence in their wake, as if the memories had been unleashed. "Do you think you can escape?" Evan bellowed, but his voice trembled with rage, and Jenna felt powerful. "You are nothing without me." "No!" Jenna shouted. "I am everything in spite of you." Suddenly, the floor beneath her shook violently, fragments of glass raining down like deadly shrapnel. A pulse of energy surged, dragging her into the center of the hall where swirling tendrils of light began to form around her, pulsating with strength and determination. The shadows recoiled, but she held her ground, breathing through the chaos. "This is my mind. My past. I take back control." As she steadied herself, the swirling light intensified, forming into a shield around her, pushing back against the crushing darkness. But the shadows weren't done. They lunged toward her, desperate clawing figures trying to break through her armor. Just as she thought victory was within reach, she felt a cold grip wrap around her ankle, dark and unyielding. Jenna gasped, panic tearing through her as the shadows clawed and reached, a cacophony of tortured wails filling her ears. "Your story isn't over yet," Sis Evans sneered, his eyes glinting with malevolence as the shadows swarmed, threatening to drag her back into the abyss. Jenna's heart raced. Would she stand strong against the darkness, or was she destined to succumb to her fears once more? The light flickered around her, giving way to the chilling reality that her choice was now more crucial than ever. Did she truly hold dear the strength of her memories, or would she falter under Evan's incessant assault? The walls trembled ominously as she prepared for the next fight, feeling the weight of her decision sink deep into her bones. What would be her next move? Would she stand tall, or would the shadows consume her at last? The grip around Jenna's ankle tightened, stealing her breath. The shadows slithered up her leg, their coldness spreading like ice through her veins. She could feel mere seconds ticking away. This wasn't just a battle for freedom, it was a fight for her very existence. No more games. Jenna cried out, forcing herself to lift her other leg and stomp down hard. The ensuing shock rippled through her, sending a burst of energy coursing through her body. With every ounce of willpower, she shoved her foot down against the dark tendrils, a primal roar escaping from her throat. The darkness recoiled, but it felt like a temporary retreat. She gathered strength, bending forward, and pushing her fists down to the ground. The light around her pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat, and a vision flashed in her mind, a memory of her brother's laughter, filling the void with warmth. "Think of love. Think of the moments that made you who you are," she shouted, pouring every bit of her soul into the words. With a roar, she thrust her hands into the air, challenging Evan's voice looming like a thundercloud above her. "You think you can wield such pathetic hope?" Evan's laughter echoed again, mocking, furious. "I know I can." Jenna shouted back fiercely, feeling the flames inside her grow brighter. "You're nothing without fear." With each proclamation, the tendrils of light expanded, growing into shimmering swords that sliced through the darkness. The shadows shrieked in agony, retreating further, but Jenna knew it wouldn't stop until she confronted the heart of the matter. "Show yourself," she screamed, clenching her fists together in furious determination. "Face me." The hall shook, the remaining mirrors rattling with a vengeance. They trembled, each one flickering to life, revealing fleeting images of her past, the twisted memories she thought she'd locked away, the haunting moments that still clung to her heart. And then, as if time had paused, a dark portal opened in front of her, swirling with black and red hues. Jenna felt a force drawing her in, her heart racing as Evan's shadow loomed larger, thickening the air around her. "Do you want to know the truth, Jenna?" he sneered, stepping forward, the darkness coiling around him like a serpent. "Everything you've lost, every tear, this is where they originate." "No. You're wrong," she cried defiantly, stepping forward, prepared to face him. "Those aren't just regrets, they're lessons, and I've learned. I want to let them imprison me." The tension was unbearable, more vivid than it had ever been. In that moment, Jenna dug deep, unearthing the years of heartache that Evan had manipulated. She let her memories surface and faced them head-on, each tear, each moment of pain transforming into a source of strength. "Look. You see this," Jenna said, pointing, the warmth glowing brighter. "That pain has brought me wisdom. It has shaped me." "Such delusion," Evan exclaimed, his anger bubbling over. "I'll shatter your wispy dreams like glass and take you down with me." With a wave of fury, he unleashed a torrent of shadows, but Jenna didn't falter. As she drew from the strength within, the light around her erupted, shooting beams of clarity that pierced through the darkness. Jenna felt every ounce of her being fused with light. She was no longer fighting darkness, she became the light. It was time to banish the shadows once and for all, but just as she was about to strike the fatal blow, the ground trembled again, and from the depths of the shadows, a new silhouette emerged. Smaller, darker, and yet hauntingly familiar. "Help me, Jenna," the voice echoed like a whisper through the chaos. Her heart dropped. Who was it? Was that her brother calling out from the darkness? All at once, just as hope flickered, a chilling realization gripped her. The fight was only beginning. Would she save him, or would she succumb to the dark once again? With the shadows closing in, Jenna stood on the precipice of a dreadful choice that would haunt her forever. Jenna's heart raced, caught in a whirlpool of emotions as the familiar voice echoed like a damning specter. "Help me, Jenna." Fear twisted into a knot deep in her chest. Who was this figure in the depths of darkness? Was it really her brother? Could he be linking her to the past she thought she had confronted? Before she could think, Evan threw back his head and laughed, dark and triumphant. "Do you see? You think you've won, but there's more yet to reveal. Let go of your hope. You can't stop what you've become." "No." Jenna clenched her fists, pushing every ounce of her energy into the light surrounding her. "It's not too late. I can't leave you here." She stepped forward, the warmth of her determination igniting the air around her. Evan's face twisted with rage. "You see how weak you are. You're thinking of a past that can't be saved." Tears streamed down Jenna's face. "This isn't weakness, it's love. I won't abandon anyone else." She felt warmth pulsing through the memories, drawing her closer to the dark figure pleading from beyond. "Help me," it called again, this time softer, as if the figure was fading. Every impulse screamed at Jenna to run, to flee from the darkness surrounding her, yet she couldn't move away. Her brother's face flashed in her mind. She couldn't save him then, but perhaps she had a chance now. "Stop!" she shouted, lifting her arms as the shadows encroached. "Reveal yourself." A tremor rippled through the ground, and suddenly the dark figure stepped into the faint light, revealing the childlike form of Evan, his eyes wide, filled with guilt and longing. The shadows consumed him, swirling like a storm around his body. "This isn't real, Jenna. I'm just a part of the darkness that you fear. Remember what you abandoned. No, you were just a kid." She stepped closer, reaching out, desperate for connection. "You've become a mirror of my guilt. I want to help you." "Help me?" He laughed bitterly, the darkness flashing in his eyes. "You want to save me when you couldn't save yourself?" With that, a deafening crack of thunder echoed throughout the hall, shaking the very foundations. Shadows lunged at Jenna, threatening to drag her underground into the darkness that had trapped her brother. But with newfound resolve, she swallowed down the fear. "No. I refuse to repeat the past. I will finish what I started." She surged forward, each step fueled by every good memory she had of him. "Evan, you are not just the past. You have to listen to me." The light around her brightened, deflecting the shadows just long enough for her to see him clearly, the little brother she still loved. The boy who had been lost so many years ago had become an angry ghost, imprisoned by grief. "Let go of the pain," she shouted, pushing against the darkness that threatened to envelope him. "You are loved. You are safe." The shadows thrashed, churning violently against her pleading tone, and the laughter transformed into a wail, echoing through the hall. "Jenna, you think you can change anything? You ran when it mattered most." "I was scared." She yelled. You were my brother. I couldn't face losing you. But it's time to let you go. I want to run again. In that moment, sheer determination collided with raw emotion. Just as the darkness threatened to drown her out, Jenna unleashed a flood of light, pouring forth every memory filled with love after that dark night, the joy of family gatherings, laughter between siblings, the warmth of shared secrets. She saw her brother's face anew, unmarred by shadows, a reflection of everything they had once shared. Remember us, she pleaded. Listen to the love we shared. Suddenly, the shadows recoiled, the darkness buckling as light shot forward, illuminating Evan's face. A flicker of clarity crossed his features, confusion creeping in as the memories resurfaced, a playful smile, shared laughter, the warmth of family. Jenna, he murmured, eyes softening as he stepped closer, the shadows around him dissipating. Let go. Jenna urged, tears cascading freely now. Let the light in. You don't belong to the darkness anymore. The ground shuddered beneath them, the swirling chaos giving way to clarity as Evan's figure shimmered, beginning to dissipate like morning mist. You're right, he whispered, pain shifting to acceptance. I thought it was too late. It's never too late as long as we remember. Jenna cried, now standing firmly, glowing in the light. With one final glance, Evan's haunting facade melted away into swirling light, and Jenna felt the weight of shadows lifting from her heart. She inhaled deeply, exhaling years of guilt and anguish, a cleansing breath backward in time. In an instant, the hall brightened, shadows dispersing like clouds unveiling a blue sky. The oppressive pressure subsided, and the surroundings transformed back into her childhood room, infused with warmth and sunlight. Family portraits lined the walls, filled with laughter, a reminder of everything she had held dear. Jenna stood breathlessly, overwhelmed, but now filled with a lightness that felt foreign yet familiar. She felt free from fear, and free to carry her brother's memory with her, untainted. Jenna. Margot and Alex rushed into view, their faces lit with concern, relief washing over them as they took in the changing scene. What just happened? I faced him, Jenna said, her voice steadying. The darkness can't touch us anymore. As they stepped cautiously into the now familiar room, warmth enveloped them, and the storm outside began to calm. Jenna smiled faintly, realizing she'd turned a corner, a defining moment in her journey. It's time to start fresh, Jenna said, lifting her gaze towards the sunlight streaming in through the window. And this time, I want to run away. With newfound strength and determination, Jenna stepped forward, ready to embrace the path ahead. She felt lighter, the burdens of her past finally letting go. It wasn't just her birthday, it was the birth of a new journey, and this time, she would not face it alone. Before she knew it, the world pulsed with a different kind of energy, hope. Jenna smiled at her friends, feeling their presence grounding her in the future. It was finally time to heal. But she knew this, her story didn't end here. It was only just beginning. If Jenna had learned one powerful lesson, it was that true strength lies in confronting the shadows. And with that, she stepped forward into the light, ready to embrace everything ahead. Now, don't forget. You need to subscribe to the channel immediately to see what happens next in our twisty-turny stories. Smash that like button now to unleash the algorithm's magic and help us reach even more fans. And we want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions, theories, and what you think Jenna will face next. Don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to be part of this journey. Remember, true fans know how important it is to support channels like ours.